Hi guys, I'm purposely am looking comfortable because I'm trying to demonstrate for you how you should feel on the day of the AP exam. I am in my study. You've probably gotten used to this now. And one of the first things that you have to start strategizing now is, where are you going to take the AP exam? Where are you going to be the most comfortable, the most chance of not being interrupted by other people in your house? And some of you may have some issues with this. You may not have a separate room with doors in it or anything like that. So you're going to have to do whatever you need to pay off your kid brother, to make sure that your older sister is watching a movie or whatever while you get the kitchen table and this, that, and you spread out however you want. So the purpose of this video is to strategize and then to actually do the DBQ that I sent you today. And I just want to let you know, although I wrote the DBQ, I have not yet done the DBQ because I don't want to have any more of an advantage doing this than you do. I want you to hear me thinking out loud. So what you're going to see in this video is, first I'll give you some advice general about how to set up your area for the actual AP exam. Second thing I'm going to do is actually demonstrate how to plan, and you won't actually watch me writing an entire DBQ, but at least the planning process, how that goes. And last but not least, I'm going to show you how you can go back and grade that DBQ, which you're then going to do for me. So let me show you some of the things that I have done to get the room ready. The very first thing I did is I made myself a little post-it note to remind myself to do all these things long before the exam gets started. I have said I'm going to tell my family, I'm going to make sure I shut the door. I'm going to make sure I have no audio on any of my computers. So you notice I got a computer here, and I've made sure I've muted the speakers. And then last but not least, I got myself all set and ready to go. And did I remember to mute that as well? Okay, because you're going to use your cell phone. You're going to make sure you don't be getting text messages and all these other kinds of things that could distract you. A real watch would certainly be better. And use this as you're practicing over the next couple of weeks. Now, as far as the room itself, let me show you a few things. So I've got to get up out of the way. We're not exactly sure how you are going to be able to do your DBQ. There has been some indication that you're going to actually be able to write it, and then you can submit your writing in some way. I don't know whether that's going to be taking a picture of it or what. Some of you are going to actually do it on a computer. So let me show you a couple of different things about the different options for doing this. If you're able to use your computer, then you might be able to do what I've done here, which is to have it, for example, I've got it as a PDF. And what I'm going to do, if I were using my computer, although you're not going to see this, I don't know how much you guys can actually see on the screen, so I'll do this quickly. I use the highlight tool, so if I notice things like this, you know, I can highlight that, I can highlight this, because I want to make sure while I'm looking at the DBQ that I can make notes to myself. Oh, I want to highlight all that, or something like that, so that when I actually write it, I can go back and look at it. So that's how you might want to do it if you were doing it on your computer. But you want to make sure, whether you're doing it on your computer or not, that you've got set up some paper. Let me show you what I've done here with the paper. Okay? I printed off the DBQ. I don't know whether you're going to have that ability or not, but at the very least, here's one thing you could do. You know you're going to get 4 or at the most 5 documents. So, one piece of paper says document 1, another one says document 2, another one says document 3, and another one says document 4. In fact, let me bring the camera over so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, so let's talk about what I have done as far as setting up my workspace goes. So I have, on my computer is the DBQ itself. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of paper. I have note paper. I've got myself some post-it notes if I need to write anything. Post-it notes as far as that goes. Now let me be clear to you. I'm not 100% sure what kind of rules they're going to have because they haven't released this yet. They may not let me have post-it notes, or they may not let me use highlighters because I got myself a highlighter, I got myself a pen, 2 different color pens, I got myself a marker. Kind of keep this stuff in mind for all your AP exams, not just the APUS exam, but all your exams. Have a test strategy. Be completely ready for any eventuality. 2 pens in case one runs out, okay? I probably should have 2 highlighters and 2 blue pens, and maybe even a pencil or 2, which I did not think of doing earlier. I've got my stopwatch all set over there. And a couple other things. Notice I've done this ahead of time. I've written document 1, document 2, document 3, document 4, and I would write document 5 just in case, because I'm pretty sure we're going to get 5 documents, okay? I have the rubric next to me. I have written on each document, champ, 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 because I'm going to remind myself as I am reading to make myself notes about champ. That's a big part of this grade as I'm going. I have already written on my piece of paper context, because I know I'm going to need an entire context paragraph. So I am completely ready to go. Again, I've shut my door. I've turned off my audios. I've let my family know I'm doing this. The only thing I've done wrong, and I'll be honest, I'm doing this today because, well, you're watching this the next day. Monday, of course, was an absolutely beautiful day, so I have my windows open. So if some neighbor comes by or someone does the lawn, I'm going to be in trouble. So you don't want to do that as far as that goes. So I'm just about ready to do the DBQ. And again, I'm going to do this with you so that you can understand how to do this, and you can especially see what you did right and what you might have done wrong. One last thing. Remember, I also sent you this DBQ to teach you a little bit how to read the news. So I will be making some comments that aren't really relevant to writing a DBQ that will help us as far as the news goes. Okay? So, we're supposed to get 45 minutes. So, I'm going to go ahead. Now, there's a couple of ways of doing this, of course. I could have a countdown from 45 minutes. But instead, I think I'm going to use a stopwatch just to get an idea of how much time I can use. I want to know at about 15 minutes, that maybe 20, again, practice how long it takes me. 15 or 20 minutes of planning and reading before I actually start the writing. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Here we go. Okay, so let's take a look. Again, I printed this a little easier. Maybe I've done it, you can see in front of the computer. The question is, describe and analyze the various reactions to the coronavirus pandemic of 2020 in the United States. Notice I'm writing on it. Maybe you highlight it if you're doing it on the computer. Here's the rubric. I'm going to make sure that I go back and I look at the rubric later on. I know it enough by now that I can go ahead and go right to the documents. Now, before I do anything, 2020, coronavirus pandemic. All right, context of 2020. What do I know about 2020? I know that it is the internet age. I know that it is a global time period. I know that people of this time period are concerned with climate change. That Donald Trump is president, because I want to get U.S. stuff going on. He's obviously a Republican. What else do I know about the year 2020? The terrorism is a big issue. In the United States, they've had big issues with immigration and the wall. What else the word pandemic I want to focus on. I know that there's been, certainly the flu goes around. I know that there's organizations like the WHO, which deals with epidemics, and of course the CDC in the United States. There's things like measles, and I know that students get kids get immunized for all different kinds of viruses and things like that. All right, so I've got the basic context. I'll write the paragraph later, but I want to do this. I want to brainstorm before I actually read the documents because it'll help me get going. So now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go to document 1. And document 1, of course, was a chart from, look at who wrote it, from Worldometers. It's a .info, so I know it's motivation. This is not about money. Okay, right there. They're doing this because they want to inform people. So right there, I just got a point, by the way. I don't really know anything about the organization, so I can't say anything about the person. The audience is pretty much everyone. Okay, and well, historical context is always going to be related to what's going on in 2020. So the date was April 14th. Our historical context is we are well into it. Now, let's go ahead and take an actual look at the chart. I see major countries in the world. I notice that the United States is first. Yay, we're number one. And they've highlighted new cases and new deaths, so that gives me the change. I got total cases, total recovered active cases, serious and critical, total cases per million. So there's my comparison. Deaths per million and total cases per million. Did you notice this? Have you noticed it? You know, the United States of America has got a lot of cases, of course, but we're also an entire continent wide. We're going to get more cases than, who else is on this list, than, you know, like Italy, because we've got a lot more people than Italy does. So we can't just look at the total, oh my God, the United States is the worst. We need to look at per million population, which is really interesting because we think the United States is number one, but our number of cases per million is 1,700. Well, look at that. Spain is 3,600. Italy, 26. France, 29. Germany is where I have to go to find it less, and they're pretty close to us. There are a lot of countries, except Iran, who have it worse. So we are not number one. We're actually down here somewhere. And our deaths, that's another thing, is how bad is it? How bad is it? Our deaths are only 74 per million. You look at Spain, they have 386 per million. Did you notice that? Okay, in fact, if we look at deaths, we actually are doing pretty good. Germany has cut it in half. I wonder what the Germans are doing. Iran only 2. Well, that's just a weird one. I'm sorry, no, this is China. Yeah, well, we all know that China, again, here's something else to know for point of view. China is communist, so we can't really trust them. So that might be something I can say. All right, I've spent a lot of time on this document. I know I got to move on. Document number 1. Document number 2, okay. Florida coronavirus cases surpass 20,000 mark. Testing expands. This is labeled as breaking news. This is the actual origin of it. Oh, it's some kind of an email message, okay, from the newspaper, and the subject is alert. You know what? I'm going to use my highlighter here. Alert. And you want to know something? You know what? I'm going to write context, circle context right now. I'm going to write down that this is the fake news media frenzy, people. Okay? I mean, how many times does CNN say breaking news, breaking news, breaking news? The motivation of this is clearly they want to sell papers or news or whatever. Did you realize that? You know, I mean, whoa, wait a second. Is it really an alert? I mean, every single day there's coronavirus case. Okay, so there's more than 20,000. I wonder why there's more than 20,000 cases. So then as I actually read the article, and I hope you actually read the article, the key part of this article is that, oh, look at this. For the first time, they have expanded the testing criteria. The criteria. Do we understand what that means? That means is that the test is different. So maybe it's not that bad. We don't know because they're testing differently. But their motivation is to sell papers. Their audience are panicked people. All right? So I don't know if I can really trust this much at all, but I do know that clearly I can't read this 100%. They even have a nice little photo to scare me. Right? Okay, because this photo doesn't seem to have anything to do with the document itself. I didn't finish reading the article. Let's see, 60% of the cases are in 3 counties. Okay. Now I also know something about those counties. I know that this is some of the older counties in Florida. It's also some of the densely populated area in Florida. Okay, so this tells me is that, what this tells me really is who it's hitting. Okay, document number 2. Document number 3, I wonder if you noticed this one. This one also was a little bit hidden. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look. It's April 13th, so again, midway in. And it's, oh my God, a curfew. A curfew. Wow, that's big time. A curfew goes into effect. And this is by, oh, it's again from Patch. So it's the same source as before. So again, their motivation is to sell papers. I know that there's ads all over the place on these websites. So that's I know their audience again is panicked people. And the historical context is again midway through. Let's hope it's midway, right? Midway through the epidemic. It's in April already. So what's this about? There's a curfew. Wow, I wonder why they did a curfew. To stop the ongoing gathering of crowds during the coronavirus pandemic, a curfew from 9 to 5 will go into effect, including, okay, so the purpose is to stop the spread. Majority of members voted. Oh, did you see this? Some people are disregarding and are participating in large social gatherings. So these people, their motivation, not of the source, but of the people making the curfew, the motivation is to protect the public. Because some people are breaking the law. This is not, and this is a big deal, this does not mean that the virus is worse. They made the curfew because people were not being socially distant. It doesn't mean that the virus all of a sudden got worse. So I've got to be careful reading this news. If I don't, read into it, I think, A, oh my God, it's getting worse, now they're doing curfews, and B, oh my God, so many more people have it, without realizing that they changed the test and that people aren't obeying social distancing. Check my time here. Okay, how far have I got? 10 minutes. I still got a few minutes now. I've spent extra time because I'm talking with you guys. I could have done this even faster. All right, document 4. Oh, I recognize this. I recognize document 4. Yeah, this is a Facebook post. So, obviously, the audience is the world and people's friends. Okay, the motivation is, I don't know, to express yourself. What's the motivation of Facebook? To express yourself, to express your opinions. And what, to gain friends? Historical context, I do have the date. It says April 20th. Okay, so this is later. And let's see, what is it? Okay, okay, that's Morgan Freeman, by the way. I don't know how many recognize Morgan Freeman. And then I look at the quotes. Just left Publix. This is more sad than funny. You are wrong in ignoring a procedure implemented for everyone's safety. I see lots of people have liked it. 60 people commented. Some people are laughing. 17 different comments. So this is going to create social anxiety and debate. In this historical context, I know there was a lot of debate on social distancing, on the law. Does the government even have the right to make us do these things? So people were pretty upset. Well, how are these documents all related? People are pretty upset. Some are breaking the law. Some are following the law. Some are mad at each other for breaking those laws or not breaking those laws. The government is doing all kinds of different things. And the media is giving mixed messages. Ooh, this is good stuff. I better write this down. So the media has mixed messages. The government is incredibly powerful, and people are arguing and not following the law. and some are. Okay. I've read all these documents. Now, quick time up. Take a look at my time. Okay. Again, all right, I got plenty of time now to go ahead and design this before I actually start writing. But hopefully what I just did has also taught you a little bit about listening to the news during this whole coronavirus epidemic. There's a lot of conflicting sources here. Okay, there's, how bad is it really? Look at it, look at the numbers. Where you live in Florida, what's it like in Pinellas? What's it like in Pasco? What's it like in Miami? That's where it's really bad. That's where the deaths are occurring. It doesn't mean that we should ignore it, but it does mean that we can understand. This is maybe why some people are breaking the social distancings. Okay? So there's all different ways to understand how this is, to calm down, to not freak out, to understand the dangers, that it's still out there, that we need to be safe. But at the same time, that the media frenzy and people who are irresponsible causing governments to overreact and make curfews when there really isn't the need for a curfew, that's going on as well. So, now, I need, of course, one of the big things on the rubric is a thesis. So what's my thesis going to be? Again, the question says, describe and analyze the various reactions to the coronavirus pandemic. All right, so I've had some reactions have been I see the media has had reactions, government has had reactions, and everyday people. Wow, this is going to be so easy. Right? So, I'm just going to go with my advice here. Repeat the prompt and put the thesis answer in the same sentence. Not going to bother with some glorious kind of intro. Instead, I will say the various reactions to the coronavirus pandemic of 2020 in the United States ranged from public fear and anger to government extension of power and media frenzy. There's my three prongs, by the way. As people tried to make sense of this deadly disease. Wow, I am all set. Even with the extra time talking to you guys, I've only taken 15 minutes. I have half an hour now to write an essay that is here's my first paragraph right here. There's my thesis. There's my prongs. I'm going to have a paragraph about the public fear and anger. I'm going to have a paragraph on government extension of power and something on the media frenzy. Now, these might be really short paragraphs because this is a quick essay, and maybe even a couple of sentences, but it's a nice outline. So there's my first paragraph. My second paragraph is going to be my context, and I've already done the outline for my context paragraph, so I'll simply just start out, it'll say something like, in 2020, the world was now global, and the U.S. played a major role in it. I will then mention some of the problems that heightened people's fears. People were already living in fear due to things like climate change and terrorism, that inside the United States they were worried about issues with immigration and the wall, that President Trump was like all presidents, a controversial president, perhaps he a little bit more, that as far as pandemics go, that they have lots of different ways of dealing with various viruses around the world. They even had immunizations and things like that. So the world was prepared, at least in some way, for this. It wasn't like the bubonic plague. I can maybe even say that in my context. So I'll have a context paragraph. So paragraph 1 is intro, paragraph 2 is my context. Paragraphs 3, 4, and 5. How am I going to do this? Well, my thesis tells me that my first paragraph is the public fear and anger. So I'm going to say that the public was, how was the public fear? Okay. The public, or the American public, had mixed reactions on their social media sites, and I'll talk about how on Facebook, as we see in document 4, some people believed that people were going overboard, like at places like Publix, while other people believed that Publix is doing the right thing. And then I'll have to get a point somewhere in Champ. So I'm going to mention something that in document 4, what we see is someone expressing their opinion via Facebook, and I'll say Facebook. And that that people's motivation on Facebook is to express themselves and to give their opinions, so that we have to be careful when we look at this to not treat it like it's a fact. This is someone's opinion. And then maybe else I'll also mention how the public ignored the social distancing, as we see in document 3, that some people who disregarded the law, and I'll talk a little bit about that law, but I'm going to wait and really talk about document 3 in my next paragraph when I want to talk about the government. So then there's a little bit of fear and anger talk about that. Then I go to my paragraph 4, which paragraph 4, looking back at my thesis statement, was about the government. So in this paragraph I'm going to talk about document 3. And I'll talk about how the government extended its power, as we see in document 3. And I'll mention that in document 3, again, we have to realize that the motivation of the patch was to get people to buy their not newspapers, but to access their website. It's a news media that wants to make money. So I have to make sure I say that although document 3 makes it seem like the police is some kind of a Gestapo kind of thing, right? I don't want to draw Nazis, that's for sure. That the police is acting like a Gestapo. What we have to realize is that the government had to do this because people were not following the laws. All right, so there I've covered document 3. I've covered. I've covered document 4. And then my last paragraph is going to be about the media. And so I will talk about how we see, again, I can mention document 3 twice. So document 3 in either one of these, maybe I can even say, again, in document 3, what we see. Or I could even say, nice transition, document 2 is a lot like document 3, like from the same source. Breaking news, they're trying to sell newspapers, that the media is completely disreporting things. And that takes us so far, because I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't talked about document 1. It doesn't really fit in. This is why I have said you don't need a conclusion. So let me show you something. Let's say I forgot document 1. And I'm doing the whole thing, and then as I'm going over the rubric, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't do all the documents. I can do a quick document 1 instead of my conclusion. So I leave myself some time just in case I forgot something. And in document 1, what I can talk about here is document 1 is the least bias. Okay? And that it's an info source. And that way, as we can see in document 1, that it is easy to misread the numbers. Document 1, an unbiased source, makes us realize that the United States, compared to other countries, was doing actually fairly well as far as dealing with deaths go. And mention a little bit about that. Okay? So, I've covered this document. I'm going to now look at my rubric. I got a little bit of time left. I've been checking my stopwatch. Got a little bit of time left. Did I respond to the prompt with a historically defensible thesis? Yes. Did I describe a broader historical context relevant to the prompt? Yes. But I need to make sure that I also have context in my body paragraphs. Where is that going to be? Well, remember, when I was making myself notes, I made some historical context about how, well, this is partway into the pandemic. I noticed, let's see here, where's a good historical context here? Oh, and when I was talking about document 4, all right, I noticed the historical context about how people debated by now over Facebook. I can talk a little about the role that Facebook plays when I'm talking about this document, okay? Let's see, so I did that. Support an argument in response to the prompt using at least 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, I did that. Use at least 2 additional pieces of specific historical evidence beyond that found in the documents. Ooh, did I use specific historical evidence? Well, I would look through my essay, or as I'm doing my essay, I'd make sure I mention stuff that's not in the documents. Well, when I was talking about document 1, I may have mentioned that China is a communist country and that you can't trust its reporting. Bingo, there's some historical evidence outside of it. Did I mention, well, when I was talking about people communicating through Facebook, and maybe I mentioned LinkedIn or Twitter or something else like that. Okay? So yeah, all right, so there, I did that. That's a big piece. Make sure I've done that. For at least 2 documents, explain how or why the document's point of view is relevant. So keep in mind, it says for at least 2. I don't have to do it for all 4. So I'm not gonna overdo that. The outside evidence is just as important as champ. And then last but not least, use evidence to corroborate, qualify, and modify an argument that addresses the prompt. Okay, I've clearly used evidence for that. So, that should take you about 45 minutes because you only have to do 4 or 5 documents, depending on the way the AP exam will actually give it to us. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to grade your own essay. Take what you wrote for me and highlight on the essay where you got each point. The best of you will have some kind of a color code. Do you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 highlighters? Can you do this for me? Can you go, okay, that's my thesis, highlight it on your essay. Okay, and here's my context, right here. And give you, I want to see you grade this. I want to see you finding in your own essay, you did this, you did that, and then I want you to give yourself a score. Hopefully your score is 1, 2, 3, 4. I got a 5, Mr. K. Okay? Once you have graded it, then you send it to me. This needs to be done by the end of the day. Tuesday, please. Because Wednesday we're going to do more preparation. We're going to do another practice DBQ starting on Thursday. Then on next week we'll do probably 1 or 2 more. So this is not a lot of time. You may think, oh my God, we're doing all these DBQs. Yes, the DBQ is 45 minutes. Class is 45 minutes. So this is just one class period is all I'm asking. So in essence, really, there's no homework. You got those 45 minutes, spend a little bit of extra time. Guys, we're going to be ready for this thing. We are going to be ready big time. If you can take these skills, not just help you, live day to day with coronavirus, but take these skills with you into this DBQ. My God, this is going to be so easy. I got a couple more ideas I'm going to throw out at you. Please email me any questions you might have. Don't forget, if it's at all possible, to have some kind of a timestamp to show me that you did the DBQ on Monday and that you graded it on Tuesday. Okay? Talk to you soon. We're getting there. Do any of you hear the birds in the background? Aren't they wonderful? Have a nice day.